being free to play have consistent updates. You know, all that new monetization they gotta sell you, they gotta keep bringing you back in because they need the audience in order to exist, in order to make any sort of money. So they gotta constantly update in one way or another. But also the fact that, well, these games, more than any other free to play game, have made this list because they've updated that much more. They went that much more above and beyond, really keeping the player retention high and keeping people churning out. Now, some of these games have waned over the years, but later in the list, absolutely, you're gonna see and know that, well, there's a reason why these games have stayed around for so long. Hopefully, some of these games can make a comeback. And with their history, I think we can expect that just a little bit. Some evolution, something to draw you back in, or for the games that are just consistently at the top of the charts, well, we can expect them to grow. These are most assuredly the free games that you probably want to jump in and try, because once you sink your teeth in, it's going to be hard to let go. Okay, so starting off our list here at number 10, we are going to be talking about RuneScape. Now, a little bit of debate if it should be on a free-to-play list, because how free-to-play is RuneScape? But you have to realize I'm also mentioning all of the other versions of RuneScape. More than a lot of other these games on this list, it's not just like a single edition that we're talking about, it's also getting kind of an applause because of all the weird stuff that it tried to do, like Darkscape, which was a completely free-to-play, full PvP version, and then they also kind of did the opposite, though, with the exclusive, like, classic servers, which recently got shut down, and yeah, so we have a lot of different versions of RuneScape. You have 2007-scape now, and then we have like the NXT or RuneScape 3, and we have a newer version coming out. We have mobile stuff. Yeah, RuneScape has done a lot of weird stuff, has constantly sort of reinvented itself and sort of remade itself over the years, over and over and over again. And its free-to-play introduction experience is famous. And while it's not the entirety of the game, and even now I guess you could say it's kind of a demo, it's always been just a little bit more than just a demo. It's had its own culture and community even. And now, more than ever, especially with the new RuneScape, you can actually buy in-game time. So debatably, is it free-to-play? More than a lot of other games, but less than full free. I don't know. Okay, a little bit of debate, but still. Regardless, I feel like it should have made the list because a lot of you guys would talk about it, and it has done a lot of really good stuff for the free-to-play community, and maybe now it does need to catch up with the times, but honestly, historically, it's always remade itself. It's always pushed boundaries, and I think now, yeah, its next update will probably do the same. It'll catch up and then go further beyond. Next up on our list here at number 9, I'm going to slap down RoboCraft. Now, RoboCraft technically is actually a very new game, but I'm ranking this list based on the number of changes, not just which ones have been updated over the longest amount of years, like RuneScape. No, this is like how many updates in how short of a time as well, and how radical those updates were, and RoboCraft has changed so dramatically. Now, when I very first played this game, like the very first day of like press access, I jumped in, I was like, oh, it's kind of like World of Tanks a little bit, but, you know, with like Minecraft voxel blocks, I mean, everyone just had like basically square tanks, and it was just running around as giant cubes. But now you have freaking like wolf mechs and spider tanks and like literal like Gundams flying around and zippity zapping. You have healing and helicopters and machine guns, snipers, and a lot of really cool freaking laser blades weapons in this game. So I do get a little bit hypey and gushy about RoboCraft, but this is one of those games that has a waning player base because of those radical changes. Sometimes they go in weird directions, but they're kind of bringing it back. They are listening to the community, and I think it's going to have a resurgence. I know they tried to do some weird BR thing. Yeah, but basically, sometimes when a game has lots of updates, it's not exactly a good thing. RoboCraft is an example of that. However, at the same time, they're still churning it out. They're still continuing on. They still got some momentum, so let's keep the hype alive. Next up on our list, my friends and family, let's talk about Terra. This is a game that started out as a premium MMO, and, you know, to a lot of ways, it is a premium MMO. It is a pretty freaking nice experience. Hard to say AAA in today, modern era, but back in the day, it was a pretty sweet experience. That then went free to play, you know, waning population, stuff like that. But Terra actually, as a free to play game, kind of blew a lot of people out of the water because the entire game was free. It wasn't kind of like a Guild Wars experience where it's like, okay, the base game's free, but no expansions. It wasn't like you were just limited to certain classes, certain rate. No, dude, the whole game is free. And overall, its monetization was actually really fair. I don't know about the modern Terra endgame, but from my experience, it was pretty dang on good. And so its history has always been, I think, applause-worthy. It's always been like, hey, here's a new expansion, free to play, here's new classes. Whether you agree with how they, you know, gender lock it and race lock it, whatever, basically, you're getting tons of free content for free. Like, it's completely free. It's a free game, free to play, shining, brimming example of how to do a free to play MMORPG. Now, Terra, if you don't know, is an action MMO, really touting the title here, I guess, of being true action combat. And personally, I played Lancer, and I thought the endgame was incredibly engrossing. Lots of interesting raids and dungeons, and they continuously expand on that, which is what you want. Normally, to get this kind of experience, you're paying not just a box fee, but also a monthly subscription. So Terra is absolutely for those hardcore RPG dungeon divers that really want a mechanical experience. This is the game, free to play or otherwise. Next up on the list, I'm going to slap down Smite, which I think is a pretty original game for a genre that's so prolific, or it used to be, right? Like that year, a couple of years, we just had so many MOBAs, but Smite came out and changed the camera angle and did so much more with little minute mechanics that intertwined with the camera angle change that made it a really engrossing and unique mechanical experience, and I love it. You know, they actually have a unique term for 1v1ing in the game called boxing. Whenever you're actually trying to melee someone, just the intricate motions that you can make or break a fight, make or break a player and turn, you know, the bad kids against the pros. You can really see who the children are and who the men are in Smite. It's a very high skill ceiling game that I really appreciate. I'm not saying that other MOBAs aren't, I'm just saying Smite does some unique things when it comes to literally the camera angle and then the more stuff that, you know, that all intertwines with that. It's truly an action MOBA, and frankly, it's the best. Every other one has just completely failed, you know, rest in pieces, but Smite is king of the castle for a reason. Now, it's also king of the castle because even though it can be very high skill ceiling, very competitive, it's also not. It's also super freaking silly. There's a lot of silly stuff going on. The arena and the random daily game modes, and you know, they actually taken some ideas from other MOBAs. Hi-Rez has an amazing ability to do that, steal ideas and make it their own. Well, yeah, they slapped in like PvE game modes in Smite. I think there's like this new weird battle royale thing. I don't know. There's a lot of strange things that go on in Smite. So the combination of this pseudo like kind of foundational competitive, you know, it's a MOBA after all, and it's an action MOBA. This sort of foundation with that, and then also just the absolute wackiness that's also in the game, I think is a really perfect merger that separates itself from the rest of the competition, especially because they're not afraid to steal. So a lot of their updates, they take these ideas, they take these characters, they, you know, mix and mash them, and it makes something totally brand new and freaking special. So one of the coolest, most interesting, weirdest updated free online games absolutely is going to be Smite. All right, guys, next up, we got Dota 2. Now, some of you guys would probably put this at number 1, you know, because it come from Warcraft 3 mods and the whole history of the game, you know, into what it is now, which is Dota 2, and then all the different game modes and all that, et cetera, et cetera. I'm putting it specifically because Dota 2 is the first official release, the first publication. You know, it's official, okay? That's all I'm saying. And yeah, it could be number 1, sure, whatever, but I'm just focusing here on Dota 2 and what it has done. Now, it's actually going to make the list despite being so new, even though like it hasn't added a lot of characters, it's had a lot of fine-tuning. A lot. And when it first released, it did have a lot of, you know, mechanics brought from Dota, sure. But what it's done from since then makes it totally worthy of being on this list. All the radical changes to the game, of course, they've added some characters, but no, I'm talking about like the replay systems, the spectating system, the overall UI as soon as you even launch the game. You know, all those little tiny Steam things are actually so impactful that other games haven't even adopted it. I'm talking about even things like the Battle Pass, which is huge in Fortnite. Smite even does it. I'm pretty sure most online games have some sort of Battle Pass thing that they're thinking of implementing if they don't already have it. And then you just have like all the little random game modes that they put into Dota 2, where the player base has put in. So maybe that's kind of cheating because this is a free game that allows players to make content for the game for free and then inject it. They also have this weird system where players can actually create items and it gets voted into the game. And yeah, I don't know, man, there's just a lot of really radical things that are kind of meta and outside of the game of Dota 2 that make the entire experience brand new and keeps players continuously coming back into it. Though there is some complaints that maybe they should add more characters faster, maybe they should make more balance changes more accurately, more quickly, but in the end, Dota 2 as a full-fledged, you know, product that's being published is one of the most radically updated, which, you know, Smite even steals from Dota 2. A lot of other games are stealing these ideas from Dota 2. It's a trendsetter, and for that, you know, it's gonna make the list. Alright guys, we are now halfway through the list, and I'm putting down Path of Exile. This game isn't ancient, but it was created as a successor to Diablo 2 in a lot of ways, that sort of brooding, dark aesthetic, and then more of that grind and hardcore-based content. Now, I think it pairs well, actually, fantastically with Diablo 3 if you want to jam into that, and there's a lot of other action RPGs, and I think if you're a fan of action RPGs, you're going to buy all the other ones, and you're going to play those games, and then you're also, at the same time, going to play Path of Exile, because why wouldn't you? It has one of the most deepest, complex spell and build crafting experiences I've ever actually played, and then they're consistently adding on new spells, new content that you can actually play through, and it's all competitive. It's PvE competitive, you can do that, and if you just also at the same time want to just play it casually as an ARPG lover, you can do that too. The first normal mode experience is pretty good. It's pretty engrossing, voice acted, very poetic storytelling, very interesting world building. All in all, from a casual to a fully competitive player, whether you love action RPGs or not, this is a free-to-play title that you definitely need to be trying out, and they consistently add on to it. They do focus on that more competitive and hardcore niche, but I think that that's a niche that just continuously is, you know, fueling the fire, fueling itself. You know, if you play one action RPG, you probably play many others, and if you haven't played Path of Exile, guys, it's totally free, casual or otherwise. You need to be checking out this game. Nothing pay to win. It's super easy to get into, and then, yeah, you'll get stuck in this game for quite a while. I definitely believe so. So definitely should be checking it out. Now, the legendary 4 here, we're starting it out with World of Tanks. World of Tanks is a game that is maybe polarizing. It's a strange game. When it first released, it was no Battlefield, but it was a big team battle title that sold itself as an MMO. I don't agree with that terminology, but it was a game that threw a lot of people off their tracks, kind of. But those who stuck around for World of Tanks found a really engrossing and incredibly deep title. See, it's this historically accurate tank game, supposedly, but it actually plays more like an arcade tank game. It's very strange, but it's very stat-based, very numbers-based, and those who actually took the time to dive into it found so much content already in the game. Now, since then, they have been adding in more tanks, adding in more physics, adding in, a whole new engine, making it graphically updated, and they just consistently, just like MOBAs and things like that, they've added in the new tanks, new maps, new ways to play, consistently just smashing over the years all sorts of new content for that group back in the day, that sort of audience that really liked the numbers game, the hardcore statistics, and, planning around the different tactics and strategies of the fights. Now, it's no Battlefield, it's no explosivity exactly. You're not going to be flying and kamikazing into tanks with planes like you might see in, War Thunder or something like that. But what World of Tanks does with freaking tanks has a world of content that's ever expanding. Number 3, dudes, Team Fortress 2. This game has been around for a while, and if you want to consider the first rendition of it, the classic, I don't know, I'm not really doing that, but I'm just focusing on Team Fortress 2. Now, since then, Team Fortress 2, really the one that started the whole hat-selling craze, we can also count that as well, because Steam games are really kind of embedded in bed with Steam itself, so the gameplay does kind of mix and merge there with the monetization, which is why we're talking about free-to-play games. That is actually a pretty big component. So Team Fortress 2 is a free-to-play, some people would say hero shooter. I think it's the father of hero shooters, but technically it's still just a class team-based shooter, but it was a really fun game. It's definitely a game that is noteworthy for spawning the hero shooter genre. But they never really consistently added in new classes, and the rate at which they updated weapons and things were also a little bit slow. However, over the years, guys, Team Fortress 2 has had engine updates, it has had new weapons, it has had so many, oh my god, countless maps, and then the whole mod support scene, which again is kind of cheating for maybe this list, but yeah, just the ability to freely add stuff and make communities, the server browser, all that stuff is important, because whether a game has those features to allow the community to do stuff or not should be something that we talk about. And Team Fortress 2 allows the player base to keep this game going forever. So Team Fortress 2 at the moment is trying to be competitive. That's their new update. That's their new focus. I don't quite agree with that focus, but it's something that is keeping the game alive to one extent. But personally, what makes Team Fortress 2 special is going to be the casual random silliness, which is going to be community-based maps, the slide maps, the jump maps, rocket maps, things like that, playing Simon Says in some random server, joining communities that way, and just playing in pubs, just randomly just jumping in public games and just smashing face as a pyro or something, That's the kind of cool stuff that I like Team Fortress 2 for, and it was definitely part of my gaming history, definitely part of yours, and actually, even the new generation is having fun with this game, because it's, it's a free-to-play shooter you can jump into and just do a lot of silly stuff. My son loves it, he likes playing the sniper, and for that reason, I gotta put it on this list extremely high up. Now, whether it continues or not, hopefully it does in the direction I want, but we'll see. What do you guys think about Team Fortress 2 now, and where it came from in the comments below? Would love to know. Now, number 2. This is a big game. It's a big proper game that's maybe going to be number 1 in a year, possibly, if we redo this list. But that's going to be Warframe, and you guys knew this was going to be on the list. I mean, it's a thumbnail. So Warframe is the shining beacon. Like, if I were to just take from this past year, it would be Warframe. If I was just talking about this past year and the updates in it, maybe even the past 2 years, Warframe has so radically changed since I played. I was actually one of the very first people to do a YouTube video on it. I got in day 1 press access, jumped in, and I was like, yo, this is an interesting game. This has some potential. And, I was cute and silly, and, that was years and years ago, back when I sucked a little bit. I couldn't see the full potential of this game even then. But even then, it was still pretty obvious. Hey, this is a cool game. But now, oh my god, I don't think anybody actually saw where this game could go, because it's just bonkers, right? I mean, we have, flying in space. We have an open world area. We have giant kaiju that we're fighting. And then all the ridiculous abilities with such a power fantasy that has me actually, with high on adrenaline when I'm playing. Running around as Fast Boy Volt. Ridiculous insanity, permanent invis certain characters and homing attacks that just kill the entire levels of enemies. There's some really ridiculous, epically fantastic power fantasy here that other games are too afraid to go to, and they keep layering on and adding on, with the parkour 2.0 or 3.0 now, new melee systems, new damage systems, constantly refining and always adding to the game. Now, there's some debate over, well, they kind of keep adding into the microtransactions, they keep adding incentive to buy things in the shop. Sure, it is a free-to-play game. There is a whole video that we could probably make about that, but regardless, it is a fully free-to-play title, just like Terra and many of the games on this list, fully free-to-play. The monetization is very fair, there is trading, and they consistently I think listen to the community and make it more fair. Yeah, they're going to keep adding on layers to the game and incentive to buy microtransactions because it is a grind-based game, but there's always going to be new grind. There's always going to be new stuff, new ways to grind, new ways to play that is ridiculous, insane, and it's coming out at such a rate that it just bonkers. And not even mentioning the actual campaign and single-player experience that they just keep teasing and then keep adding on. I hope they continue in that direction, but basically Warframe is just going in all directions all at the same time, and it's unending. It's unceasing, and that's kind of fantastic, I think. So for this weird experimental game, you know, it's not always what we want at the right time, but there's always something more. So that's why it's number 2. And now, number 1 is got to be League of Legends. Now, not the most ancient game, but it has been around for a while. And if you've really consistently played any free-to-play game, you have definitely heard of League of Legends. Now, there have been some other influential games when it comes to the way microtransactions work, like Dota with the Battle Pass, and there has been other games that have had more radical, different changes, like we talked about just recently with Warframe, or even how Team Fortress 2 became so radically different, splitting its player base. League of Legends, though, has maybe more akin to World of Tanks, where it really just hyper-focused on what it wanted to do, and then we also have to consider the meta of what it wanted to do, and that's going to be esports. If you think that the whole esports sector of this is completely disjointed from the literal gameplay, you are completely mistaken. League of Legends' ranked system and ranked gameplay and ranked experience is a whole different beast that changed the world. The esports, as a global sport, I guess, has actually really been fueled by League of Legends specifically. League of Legends is maybe not the MOBA for you, but it's the MOBA for most people. That's all I can say. Most people know of League of Legends because it just has this really tight formula that they just want to continue to hyper-focus on. Now, they have added in some extra stuff that they've seen from other games. They have added in replay and like a sandbox mode, and you know, they've added in like ARAM and a couple other silly game modes that come in, seasonal events, things like that. They've started adding on lore events and you know, cool things like that, and how they intertwine lore with skins. It's kind of interesting. You know, there's a lot of little minute details, but we have seen those in other games and other, you know, not even just MOBA, but just other titles, period. We are seeing that kind of thing. So League is kind of just slowly, porously absorbing certain things. So, you know, in that way, of course, it's staying updated. It's trying to stay modern. It's trying to become fully fleshed out. But like World of Tanks, it is a MOBA that is hyper-focused on the esport. And in terms of gameplay like that, we really need to think about the innovation that it had with esports, with its competitive scene, with its ranked system being mirrored and copied all over the place, and with that experience of the 1v1s in League of Legends, right, how tight the controls are, how everything moves, just that perfect formula. It almost feels like a fighting game. Then, of course, you're adding in the team tactics, you're adding in all the little subtle changes to this one map that they really focus on over the years. It's all these little small things, plus with that competitive edge, that makes this game so freaking influential. And on a top 10 list like this, most updated free online games, we gotta talk about those balance changes, those patches, the little tiny small things that maybe isn't as explosive as, you know, ninjas in space or, you know, crazy people shooting each other with funny hats. Maybe it's not as colorful as that, but if you consider how many champions they've added to the game, how consistently and how radically unique and different all of those mechanics are compared to many other games where you can clearly see the influence from those, League of Legends is like, when a new character comes out, it is like a whole new design, very interesting aesthetic, and mechanically, it's freaking whoa. Especially, again, multiplied by the fact that this is an esport game, and then where that takes the game as well. So with everything considered, League of Legends is my number 1 most updated free online game. Yeah, guys, I'm a little bit long-winded with some of these titles, but I get passionate about games like this. I love free-to-play games. I've been reviewing them for like 6 years now, and I want to continue. So if you guys want to support that, go to the Patreon, peel some eyeballs on it, or just like, subscribe, comment, you know, the call to action, YouTube stuff. Yeah, hey, that stuff actually works. But anyways, I want to keep doing weird lists like this that a lot of people don't like to talk about, but I like deep diving into games. I like talking about them deeply, so let's get into